Appeals. Tonight is Monday, August 21st. It is 7 p.m. First case we have tonight is case number 23-26, related to a 40B decision for 55 SS LLC at 51, 53, 55 Summer Street. This is a modification of the approved comprehensive permit that the zoning board issued before. This modification will seek to remove 3 of the townhouse-style rental buildings from Lot 1 and 2 and eliminate the previous homeowners association. Okay, so at this time, we have 2 board members that are going to step down from this. And Bob Fitzgerald is not here tonight, but one of the things before we get going, Mr. Hale, I just wanted to let you know that Bob's not here. He plans to combine this so that we'll have the 5 voting members for the case. Next question is what we would do, when we could have the next hearing for this. And usually I address this at the end, but I just want to bring it up to the beginning. I've already known once Bob's going to do it, and the only concern is what's available. And we looked at October 11th.
Yeah, so Fitzgerald has it's the 18th of October. So our meeting is 6th, so I guess the other one would be September 6th.
Yeah. Well, do we have a meeting scheduled on October 6th?
September 6th.
September 6th, yeah.
Yeah, so a typical meeting schedule.
See how we go tonight. I just wanted to let you know that at the beginning, so you're looking at either September 6th or October 11th. Well, make sure everyone's awake. Also, can you turn the screen? Is there a way to turn that screen on in the back? So people can see that. Okay, so the purpose of tonight's meeting on the 55 SS LLC 40B project was to address some of the engineering concerns. We have peer review with us tonight. Sean Ridham, nice to see you, Sean. Sean is from Tetra Tech, and he provided the peer review, which is requested by the zoning board, paid for by the applicant, but Mr. Reardon is very clearly working for the zoning board, not the applicant. So, okay. Sean, we received your memo the other day with a number of items, and then today we received a response from the applicant addressing many of the comments that you have made. So I think that it seems like, because I got it at sometime this afternoon, I went through it, looks like you addressed most of them. There were some things that I did have questions on where I just said, agreed with peer review comments and something, but, how is that going to be resolved? So, Sean, I think it would be helpful if you could hit, some of the key points. Yeah, please come to the podium so everybody can.
Good evening, everybody. Again, for those who don't know, my name is Sean Reardon. I'm with a company called Tetra Tech. We're a civil engineering firm, and we've been engaged by the SBA to act as their technical review consultant. So we're doing all the sort of finer detail of the plan and suggesting things that need to be considered to be addressed before we vote for a decision. So first and foremost, our responsibility was to consider the proposed change. So we're here to contemplate a change in the scope of the project. From our standpoint, the change is universally good. It reduces the amount of traffic that comes from the project, reduces the amount of water and sewer that traffic generates, the size of the project generates, and it also, more importantly, sort of reduces the amount of impervious area on the site, so it makes a much less dense project. So from our standpoint, while the number of units stay the same, sort of the environmental impact and the impact on the neighborhood is going to be reduced over what was previously approved. That being said, whenever we get submittal documents, we review it all. So we didn't just limit our comments to just the proposed change. We relooked at everything that we looked at 2-some-odd years ago and just provided the board with the benefit of our comments. Those comments fell into principally 2 categories. One is like presentation. So just things that we thought would make the plans more readable, easier to understand, because eventually they're going to be referred to the clearer documents on the photograph. And then a series of technical comments. I'd say more than half of those technical comments have to deal with drainage and the sizing of the ponds and the criteria used for designing them, all of which I would consider relatively straightforward to address. The only one bit of complication is a lot of that design is subject to review by the Concom. So the Concom had a very exhaustive review, and what we want to do is make sure that we're deferential to that review and to the comments that their consultants made. So our comments are just our comments, and some of them might have to be sort of set aside for out of deference to the Conservation Commission's consultant comments. But the end result is project change, universally good. The plans, as we left them last time, very well developed, very clean to read. And just a few minor details that are cleaned up before the board approves it, or the board can even approve it in its current state. And I think all the conditions that are in the original decision would have captured any of the minor changes that we need.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley. Mr. Hale, you provided a letter to us, or somebody from your staff provided it just today. You want to address some of those things where you commented about this with Mr. Reardon's peer review, or if you want to just let that stand on its own? Okay. So the next thing is, one of the things I want to talk about, when this project was originally approved, it was going to be a neighborhood within the South Walpole community. And without the single-family homes and some of the townhouses, that's been lost. And I think that's something that people in South Walpole particularly valued on this project. They weren't real loud about the project, but it seemed like that was one of the things that was supported by the neighborhood, the people in South Walpole. Now that's going to be gone, it's going to be all mostly gone. So the question is there something you can do on this project to make it more part of the community, with walking trails, passive recreation, something like that?
So there are trails, and public has pedestrian access to this. The ownership portion of the park, and now to the low extent that trails, as I'm suggesting,
So is there a way that there could be some parking near the trailhead so that people could access it?
I think that during the hearing process, there was a lot of discussion about controlling the parking and access to driving stadium events, etc. There's a requirement in here that decision that all of the tenants and all of the visitors that are part of this and what was the homeowners association, our owner told cars that didn't have that sticker. So it's incompatible. And I don't think that the owner and speak for yourself wants an area of their land that they don't control. We're proposing to make minor changes, reduce the traffic, reduce the impervious, reduce the bedrooms, and we're proposing to make
So when you call minor changes, from what I've heard from people in South Walpole, those are significant bit about home ownership and things like that. That's something that, people thought on this project, which they didn't like much about. That was the one thing that people thought was something that was appealing. Now that's going away. So I think it's a big change. It's a big change for people here in Walpole. That it's gone from a partial rental and partial home ownership to all rental. So, what can be done to make this development more part of the community? Because that fact is, people thought was going to sort of connect them with home ownership that's disappeared from your end. So what can be done to make it so that it ties into the South community a little bit more? Agree with you, things have changed, and one of the things that's changed is people are more passive recreation in their communities since this project was first designed. So it goes both ways. What can be done to make this project more part of the community? That's all we're asking.
So this project over time. Voters, people that integrate
already have a special permit for this, and you're asking for modification. And so far, I think the board's been working a lot with you on that. Would like something that benefits the community.
So, don't, keep in mind that, there's a $500,000 check. Already. So these are modifications that have no negative health, safety, or environmental issues. So they are approvable, and ultimately will be approved. That's what we are proposing. You know, at the beginning of the process, there was a lot of resistance to having visitor parking spaces. Now, you seem to have changed your mind.
No, I'm just trying to make it, and I'm not going to figure out how to make your project better, but what I'm suggesting is that there's be something that ties the community into your project, because you've lost that by going to all rental without the home ownership component. But I've already stated that, we're going back and forth on it, and at this point, turn it over to the public if they have some comments on this development. Hey, Mr. Hamilton, good evening.
Bill Hamilton, Precinct 5. Dear Chairman and members, in my opinion, town employees and residents will suffer serious hardship if this project is built. The need to support our newest fire equipment required to fight fires in this project require the roads and bridges to be built to a higher standard to carry earth-crushing weight of the fire engines that will cause these new roads to form earthen dams on the floor of our Zone 2 aquifer, Walpole's drinking water supply. Dams which will change how drinking water meanders in the aquifer. If water is diverted from our drinking water wells, that is a very big hardship for the property owners, taxpayers. This 40B is needed less than water. Today, water dilution keeps the carcinogenic material below maximum contaminant levels. For example, PFAS 6 is at 16.3 parts per trillion in 2022. 20 parts per trillion is the highest amount allowed, an increase of 3.8 parts per trillion, and it is no longer drinking water. A significant hardship which demands this 40B be denied by the ZBA. The risk of loss of millions of gallons of drinking water is a potential real hardship for Walpole taxpayers and employees. During an emergency, we can draw 2 million gallons of water from Mine Brook, but 1 million of those 2 come from the goodwill of Medfield. They allow us to take their 1 million because they're not using it. Now, 1.5 million gallons will be needed from the MWRA. They will demand putting sludge in their approved sludge dump. Walpole sewered the fields. The Walpole Prison Complex abuts the fields. Therefore, the prison complex can hook up to our sewer by right. The MWRA 94-acre sludge dump site abuts Walpole Prison. Therefore, the sludge dump can hook up by right once Walpole Prison hooks up. This is a hardship for the property owners within a mile of the perimeter boundary of the 94-acre sludge dump. Property values in South Walpole and West Walpole will drop, causing property tax in North and East Walpole to increase because the levy limit does not change. So Walpole still has to tax the same levy. MAPC states clear cutting trees by the 40B, which they've done, sheds water from our Zone 2 aquifer beneath the 40B project. This is another major hardship, reducing dilution, putting our drinking water at risk for exceeding the maximum contaminant levels. Again, significant reason for the ZBA to deny this 40B. Testing of the aquifer, Zone 2, below the 40B project must be required by the ZBA and monitored by a hydrologist and the Board of Health to prevent a hardship for the future occupants of the 40B. And this is why the 500-unit age-qualified village on top of Bird Machine was eventually dropped and not built because of the contamination that exists below Bird Machine. It's very toxic. We already have toxic material in parts per trillion at our School Meadowbrook wellhead. If we stop diluting it like we are, and that rises and increases, we'll be out of drinking water. And I think that is a significant hardship and a reason to deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Hamilton. Anybody else? Sure, come on up.
I do have a question.
You just identify yourself for the
Oh,
record.
I'm sorry. Kathleen Cleary, I live at 3 Shufelt, directly across from where this is going to be. If the only change is...
Would you address your questions to the board, and then we'll ask?
According to the original plan submitted, the walkway, the pathways were going to be controlled by the homeowners association. Half an hour before dawn, half an hour before sunset access. So now that we have gotten rid of, or supposedly planning to get rid of the homeowners association, if that is the only thing that's changing, then why is the pathways not going to be maintained in the plan? So if the pathways was in the original plan, but was going to be controlled by the HOA, which is now non-existent, why is there still not going to be a pathway that the neighborhood is going to be able to utilize?
Okay.
So
Okay.
all we're doing is changing how the housing is being done, but we're not changing the original plan, which
So-
included pathways.
Mr. Hale's going to answer that. I'm going to ask him to answer that question, but
So basically,
I-
it should not be a problem to have the pathways if only the housing facilities is going
Yeah,
to change.
and-
Why is that not happening?
I don't think,
Yes, so
Yeah.
we're not changing, we're not.
would you just use the microphone, Mr. Hale?
Is it? Yeah, so we're not proposing to change the access to those trails. There will still be access to the trails. The homeowners association was only there because there would be an apartment owner and a condominium owner that split the land. Now there'll just be an apartment owner, but the decision will remain that the public will have pedestrian access to the trails. And so,
Still going to be created.
yes, so there are existing trails along the riverfront, and there were trails coming out toward Summer Street. And so we're just going to connect the trails from the project to the trails along the riverfront, and put up signage that our order of conditions with the Conservation Commission requires, and the rules will be the same, a half hour before sunrise and a half hour after sunset. The public will still have pedestrian access to those trails.
Oh, it sounded earlier that you weren't going to do that. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that's not changing at all.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else?
Hello, Mark Major, 11 Summer Street, a butter to the project. Again, speaking as a neighbor and a butter here, not as any part of the zoning board. I'm struggling a little bit to understand how we think this is actually going to...
I object. This is a clear violation of state ethics rules.
No, it's not. He recused himself, and he's speaking as an abutter. I've done this many times, Mr. Hale. You can object.
I just
Fine.
want to be on the record and do what you want.
Yeah. It's not. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Major.
Question. The question is, how do we feel that this is actually going to reduce traffic? I've heard that comment a couple of times tonight. I see the same number of units, same number of parking spots. Seems like we haven't done anything further to reduce the traffic nightmare that will ultimately be a result of this project. I would love to hear some more constructive ideas, similar to, I think, the direction you were going, Mr. Chairman, about additional things that can be done as a result of a change to a project that is very significant, changes the complete ownership and unit type, and whether they're owner occupants or renters. It's a very significant change, to your point. So I would love to hear more about what can we do around traffic, okay? So we're reopening these conversations after a year and a half, getting to a place where both sides agreed. We've now reopened them. I would love to hear more about traffic remediation and fixing the nightmare about traffic. I think the second thing that's a little concerning here is we've kind of got one party who is almost a lame duck, clearly not working in the best aspect for the project, plans to sell it already as soon as this part gets approved. I would love to hear more from Fairfield and the owner that we're going to be dealing with as residents on a go-forward basis in what they're willing to do to make the site a better place, make this project a better project, and really reduce what will ultimately be a bomb to South Walpole once this actually gets built. So would love to hear more from Fairfield, less from Omni and 55 Summer LLC. The other thing is this has already been clear cut. This site has been completely cut, and now we're talking about, we've reduced footprint of buildings. What are we going to do with everything that's been clear cut? Who's going to maintain that? I would love to hear that they're going to maintain all these walking trails in addition to just providing access to them. And that they're going to build a lot of nice things in this clear-cut area that is essentially open space now. So maybe one question just on the traffic, and then would love to hear some more ideas about how we can do better.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I was going to say it might be an opportunity to
Yep.
fall to the peer review.
Yep. Mr. Reardon, do you want to address the comment about the traffic? Because I think you said that you thought that the traffic was going to be decreased. Can you
Sure.
explain?
Just in the way of background, so when traffic analyses are done, they use a thing called the Institute of Traffic Engineers, Transportation Engineers manual, which assigns trip generation, the number of vehicle trips that come from different uses. Multifamily housing, which is the replacement for the single-family housing, generates far fewer trips than single-family houses, on the order of 50%. So about half, a unit of multifamily housing versus a single-family home generates about half the number of traffic trips. And that's just a standard used in the industry. And it does correlate to fewer bedrooms, fewer trips, fewer people. So it makes sense. But the numbers that you're charged to use, the Institute of Traffic and Transportation Engineers numbers, it's clear less traffic is generated by multifamily than single-family homes.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Mr. Major, does that answer your question about why he stated that?
Yeah, I hear you. I think one follow-up is the walking score of South Walpole is, I think, 9 out of 10, meaning you need a car to do anything. So I'm sure those numbers are slightly skewed when you look at where single families typically are and how far you need to go to places versus where apartments usually are and where they belong, honestly, which is more in urban areas, not South Walpole.
There is an adjustment factor for that, so it's pretty formulaic.
Okay.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah. Yes, Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, Bill Hamilton, Precinct 5. A follow-up on what Mr. Hale said. He reminded you of the $500,000. Well, I want to remind you that the Sewer and Water, at a meeting with a representative to discuss hooking up to the MWRA said that the town of Walpole would have to pay $8 million to hook up to the MWRA. So I want that considered along with the 500,000. And the second exit is still a big problem. I don't know, some of the people on the board may have been witness to when that snowfall accident required the police department to work the same type of situation if the exit had to be opened. That exit can't be opened unless there's 3 police officers on detail. And that might be hard to get quickly in an emergency. I would not want to work it. It's very treacherous. It's a steep incline. The visibility is very short. You need 3 police officers who can see each other and know what they're doing. It's very dangerous. And the crossing at Summer Street, I go over it all the time. The MBTA has 10, 12 vehicles there at different times trying to make that safe. They haven't made it safe. They can't make it safe. They offered to have a station there, and the station would cause the MBTA train to stop before it crossed Summer Street, coming from both directions. That would make it safe, but federal laws wouldn't allow them to do it. So the only other way they can make it safe is to put concrete barriers across it. And the select board won't talk to me about whether or not they would allow that to be done. So if those concrete barriers were put across there, that would create chaos in South Walpole. People from that project would have to come out and take a right-hand turn every time and go through South Walpole to get to 1A or to go up Summer Street, which is not a great way to go up. So there are traffic problems there, and I hope that they've been looked at because this is a terrible, terrible situation. I couldn't get home one night because of stadium traffic. Going down Eldor Drive, because they could hear the music from the stadium, people drove on one lane, and then, because of the delays, people started driving on both lanes. I had to cross lawns to get home. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? Mark Melliger on Schufeld. So we talked about this before, and I'm very happy that you brought it up in the beginning. We agreed to something that was part of the community. And with all these changes, it is no longer part of the community. There's a lot of kids, a lot of families, a lot of great things that this community and this town has done. This is not one of them. So I want that to be obviously thought about before we make this decision. The other thing is that you talked about the increase that everything has taken place.
If you would, address the board.
Everything that has taken place since 2019 or 20 when this project originally started. So the rent is going to be increased as well, right? So it's not just about the housing. It's also now the rent is going to be up. So I wonder who's going to be able to afford the rental part of this community. When the rent's going to be up, you have a train right next to you, and obviously the other problem that's going to be is just the amount of rental, U-Haul trucks, and everything that's not going to happen. That's when somebody moves into a home, they stay in their home. They're proud of their home. With a rental community, there's no likelihood of people staying part of the community. They're going to end up leaving after a year or two because of the noise, because of the concerts, the traffic, people taking up their parking spots because they want to try to be able to take the path through Schufeld to get to the stadiums. It is not the right situation. So I just want you guys to all understand that I support what had originally been part of the original plan, which was making it part of our community where kids can play with other kids and not know that, that they can be safe. And with rental, we don't know if it's going to be safe. That's the other thing that I just wanted to bring up to you. And trails and all that stuff, but we couldn't think of something that could add value to our neighborhood, to the South Walpole community and to Walpole. And rental is not adding value. So I'm just going to say that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mulligan from Precinct 5. I'm sorry, I was
Speak up into the microphone. Thank
Joanne
you.
Mulligan from Precinct 5. I was in another meeting, I'm sorry, so I missed, and I don't mean to repeat any comments, but I guess I'm just going to come back to what I'm already hearing about the character of the neighborhood. I thought that the whole design with having units that were going to be like, you know, with the ownership around the outside. I don't love that all the trees have been cut down. They really didn't have to now in the new plan. But this just is a totally different project now. We're back at now 3 big apartment buildings in South Walpole. And for the argument, and I think it's valid, about the character of South Walpole, this is crazy. So I thank you for listening, and I know you've listened to us for a long time, but here we are again, back. Thank you.
Thank you. And, yeah, we did have a conversation earlier about the changes that are being proposed and what can the applicant do to tie it into the community more. And we ended up going in circles. Okay. Anybody else on this? So, okay, yeah, come on, Mr. Hamilton. About the modifications, right?
Yes, I want to know about the financing of the modifications. At the last meeting, you were not present, but the fellow from Fairfield said they were going to use retirement funds to fund this project. Now, David Hale at the Boyden School said he was using Boston Private, and that Signature Bank was a subsidiary of Signature Bank, and that went under. So I object to using retirement funds on a project so close to a sludge dump. Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Joe DeSisto. I live on Summer Street, and I've been to quite a few of these meetings, and to say that I'm just as confused now as I was day one would be an understatement. The plans have changed numerous times, none of which have benefited the neighborhood itself. I brought up a point back when it was the original plan about the fire department response and the lack of manpower that we have here in this town to provide response to a high-rise apartment building. I was told by the developer at that meeting that the buildings are going to be safer because they're going to be sprinkled. He also stated that there were going to be a lot of elderly living in this building, and they'll be safer. If there's someone living on the 5th floor or 4th floor of an apartment building, and you only have 8 guys responding to a fire, they're not going to have enough people to get these people out. I've said it numerous times. Nothing in this project benefits the neighborhood or the town, and it keeps the plans that keep changing only benefit the developer. That's all I'm going to say.
Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, board members. Sure.
Mr. Hale, earlier you said that your model better accommodates rental over ownership because of the high interest rates. You said that?
Yes.
What does your model show for 10 years from now?
So the model shows, and to be clear, Fairfield will be the developer of the apartment project, and their funding sources come from teacher pension funds, endowments. This project will be owned by institutional money, and it'll be well maintained, and it'll be a benefit to the community and to the people that live there for a very long time. In this country, Class A apartments are generally owned by pension funds, and they're managed by companies like Fairfield, and that provides an assurance to the community that the project will be well maintained.
So I don't know if you just answered me or not, but are you going to tell me in 10 years that rentals are down and ownership's back up? And I mean, you're saying today that ownership's down, that's why you're modifying the project.
Yes.
Because what your model showed today is different than 3 years ago. I'm asking you a simple question as 10 years from now, what does your model show you then?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have
Okay, that's all.
a very
Thank you.
cloudy crystal ball. What I know is that what's financeable today, there's a great need for housing and for rental housing in Massachusetts, in all of these communities. And that's what's financeable today. And that's why we're changing the project. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Okay. So now comes the question, any other questions on engineering? Anybody have anything for Mr. Reardon? I think that it was, you know, you provided your comments in writing. The applicant has provided comments. Did you see the comments that came out today from the applicant?
I saw their responses today, I looked through them briefly.
As I did too.
I think you were accurate. You addressed a lot of our comments. There were some outstanding issues, but nothing sort of cataclysmic that can't be addressed during the ongoing process. Your decision protects you from all those things, so there's nothing that's of great consequence.
And I think one of them was, it had, the one that I recall, you addressed, Tetra Tech, you addressed the issue of lighting on the emergency access. And the response was, agreed with or something.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen with that? Are you going to provide lighting on the emergency access?
So I thought the comment was that you thought it was appropriate that there was not lighting.
Correct. So, my comment was, I agree that there shouldn't be lighting on that emergency access.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole idea is it's an emergency road, but we don't want to do anything.
Okay, so when your team said agreed, it's just
So we're just,
agreeing with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
misread that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And, yes,
So from the last
Just-
meeting, sorry.
just come on up, please.
Mark Mulliger from Schufelt. From the last meeting, there was questions that I believe were brought up from the fire department or from the fire chief. Have those been addressed and have those been all answered? I know there was a list of a lot of things that were brought up during that last meeting, and I just wanted to see what those responses were from the developer. And I know that Mark had brought this up before, but can we also hear from the party that's going to Fairfield, that's going to be taking over this project, and to really kind of get their insight of what they're going to do that's going to benefit the community?
okay. That's on my notes. Did we have something from the fire chief?
I think it was.
So we had responses from the applicant, and I don't believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hale, that the fire chief has responded to your comments yet?
he is not, and I did
No.
email them again just to make sure he got them, but his primary comment was, we had a one-way section of the road between Lot 1 and Lot 2. He suggested that we reverse the one-way, and we agreed with his analysis and agreed to do that.
And the fire chief also had concerns about the site plan submittal does not state road widths for all roadways. Do you have an update on the widths of the roadways?
Yeah, they all meet the standards, so they're all 24 feet, and once it gets to the emergency access, it shrinks to 20 feet.
But that's just the emergency access?
That's just the emergency access.
I believe the front entrance is wider. Isn't it still 30 feet?
Yes, and it's got a huge radius.
Well, I did
So-
review the fire department's comments, and I believe they were responsive to all of them. The only issue was there was some conflicting information. Some of the plans showed the old circulation, some of the supporting materials showed the new circulation. So our comment was to make sure those are.
So what we thought was appropriate was that we should answer or field all of the questions and then change the plans instead of doing it midstream. But we've agreed to do all those things.
As long as it's meeting the expectations of the fire chief and the fire chief's letter dated July 13th.
Yep.
You've reviewed some of that too. Okay. So I hope that answers your question about the fire chief's comments. And that's why we have the peer review. Okay. I am going to ask if is the person from Fairfield here, and if you'd like to come up and say hi and introduce yourself to the board and people of South Walpole. Good evening.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Rob Hewitt. I work for Fairfield Residential. We're a multifamily builder, developer, and owner. We're a national company, but we operate into each individual market. I run the Boston region for Fairfield, and we develop in and around Boston. We have 4 developments under construction currently. We have 4 that are operating in the Metro Boston area. And as Mr. Hale stated, we not only develop, but our firm acts as the general contractor, so we control the quality of construction, make sure that all the workers park on the site. That was a question I heard at the last hearing. We've studied the decision from this board. We will live with all those conditions, including maintaining the trails. We have a management company that once the project's built, they lease up the apartments, they check everybody's income, they do the criminal background checks, they make sure the property is maintained, they hire all the subcontractors. We'll have a staff of 3 to 5 on site full-time during the operating hours, and then we have emergency contacts for after hours. So it's an institutional equity, as Mr. Hale stated, and they require very high standards for both construction, operation, and keep the project up to the highest standard.
Okay.
And in terms of some of the conversations tonight, this is all, we're hearing this tonight, or I'm hearing this tonight, but one of the things that David mentioned, but I don't think showed a plan of, was that the Conservation Commission had asked that that portion of the site that will be undeveloped, given this new plan, if it's approved, they had asked that the trail be extended across that whole piece of the property. Do you know how long that trail is, Patrick?
I can get very, very rough estimate.
Sorry for the delay.
No, that's
My
fine.
only point is that this was something that was asked that we thought was a great add to the project, so we're willing to do that. And I've heard the comments today, and we'll think about are there other things that could be good ideas to address your comment.
Okay, so it sounds like you're on board with extending the trail. That's one of the things that's what I was trying to get at. I didn't realize you were in conversations with Conservation Commission on that.
They had suggested the trail. We had shown it, I think, going up and partially into the site toward, there's a detention basin on that part of the land. Okay, so the suggestion, I think as early as yesterday or today, was to extend the trail all the way through that portion of the site, the southern part where there won't be any homes, but is now open. And so we've proposed a trail that will go that whole 700 feet to provide more access into the site.
And I think that's a positive that if that's done and as part of the modification, if that's done, that really makes it, ties it to the community a little bit better. And that's what you heard from people tonight, and that's what I was asking for earlier tonight. Something that makes Cedar Crossing part of the South Walpole community.
Right, and the the maintenance contracts for all the landscaping for the whole development will include specific requirements that those trails be maintained professionally. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself tonight.
John, just
Mr.
one
Reardon,
quick-
do you want to just come to the mic? Sorry, just make it.
One quick reminder, the trail system on site does connect through to an existing trail that leads to, I think it's Delapa Circle. So it's not a sort of an isolated collection of trails. It connects to off-site trail systems. So there is integration between the two.
Good, thank you. Judy?
I had a question for the representative from Fairfield. I want to come back up. Can you hear me? Have to speak louder? I'm trying. Can you turn it up a little? Because I can't hear this. Speakers. Mr. Hewitt, where are your currently operating developments in the metro Boston area?
Let's see, we have a project in Chelsea that's 2 phases, 2 separate projects from each other. Milford, Massachusetts is the closest to Walpole currently. And we're constructing in Peabody and Woburn. The Peabody development will be operational this coming February.
Okay. And what is the average, so how long have these been operating? Thank you for turning it up. How long have these 3 or 4 facilities been in operation?
Let's see.
Completely occupied?
1 to 3 years, depending on the project.
Okay. And what's the average length of lease time?
Of lease time?
Of lease time? 1 year, 18 months?
Yeah, we talk about the turnover rate, so how
Okay.
many times an apartment turns over every year. So the turnover rate's about 35% on average. We do find that in more desirable communities like Walpole, the people tend to stay longer, so those numbers might be lower than other areas, but
So you don't find Chelsea, Milford, Peabody, or Woburn desirable areas? You built in them?
I'm not stating anything.
Okay,
about those
well,
areas.
I'll interpret my own, thank you. So 35% turnover. Do you do an exit poll? Why do people leave?
We do. Typically, it's because they have a job change, they're buying a home in the community. Sometimes we have people who rent for a period where the house is getting built or redone, so that they're definitely a short-term rental in that case.
So how many short-term rentals do you estimate you have in your current housing areas?
Well, our minimum lease is 12 months, so we don't lease for anything less than that.
Okay. Okay, I might have another question, but I'm good for now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those numbers. Yes, ma'am. We'll get to you, Mr. Hamilton, next. No, please come to the microphone so everybody can hear your question.
Kathleen Cleary, South Walpole. How many developments are of the size magnitude, and how many are right next to a train station crossing? We do not believe that a railroad crossing is going to be detrimental for occupancy. And then one other question is, as far as the desirability of rental property, do the developers not believe there is a desirability of entry-level housing to make apartment ownership mixed in with apartment rentals?
Do you want to answer those questions?
Sure, I'm happy to speak to the first question. I'll just ask for clarification on the second. We have many developments near railroad tracks and highways and other noisy operations. Our development in Woburn, for example, is right on the commuter rail tracks. We do a lot of work on the design, the sound attenuation. If we can't rent an apartment, it is of no value to us, so we're convinced that the sound inside the apartments will be acceptable and that they're rentable. So we put a lot of time and effort into that because that's our business, and so we're confident that the train won't be a detriment to anyone renting at this property.
The second part was about home ownership and, what's that?
Intermixing.
Intermixing
Yep.
ownership and rental in the same building.
Have we done that?
Yes, have you considered?
We only do rental apartments, so we don't develop the single-family for sale part, so I really can't speak to that.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Mark Schufelt. So, Fairfield, how many locations have you guys stayed in? And how long has that term that you have overseen those projects, how long has that term been on average? So the one thing that we are noticing is obviously the project that started off with Omni has now been passed hands to Fairfield. What I'm afraid of is what other hands are gonna be passed? And what's gonna end up happening to the people that are there? What's gonna end up happening to the community? And what's gonna end up happening over the next 10 years, right? So that's the biggest concern that we all have, because what ends up happening with developers is you invest, you sell, and you move on to the next project. So that's what I'm seeing, the trend that's happening here, and that really is a scary thought process of what's gonna end up happening to the town of Walpole.
Do you want to answer the question, how long you stay at
Sure.
apartments that you build up?
Yeah, the apartment business is like any other real estate. You can make money from collecting the income, and you can make money from selling that property to someone else, just like no one stays in their house forever, and they likely would hopefully make money when they flip their house. That's our same model. That being said, our typical hold period, we have kind of two buckets, we would call. One is more of a short term, 3 to 5 years we would hold, and the others is sort of a 10 to 20-year hold. Currently, this, at least phase one, which we own the land and we're preparing to build on, is in a 10-year plus hold. So that's kind of called a long-term hold for us. Now, there's plenty of projects we've held for much longer. You know, there's steady income, sort of the devil you know, versus buying something new. But I will say that any property that I've developed that is sold has been sold to an institutional owner who maintains it in the same professional way. Sometimes they would maintain our property management company as the manager. Sometimes they'll bring in their own professional manager. But I often tour properties that have been sold from my prior companies or with Fairfield, and they're never run down or let go. And the conditions in the ZBA permit, as you know, are binding on the landowner. Whoever owns it is required to stick with those requirements. So, and that's all public record. There's no getting away from those conditions. Thank you.
And just to the final point that Mr. Hewitt made, the comprehensive permit that we, and I say collectively, everybody here, the applicant, people in South Walpole, the board, worked on, all the town, other town boards, that's binding on whoever owns it into the future, not just Omni, Fairfield, whoever it is. Okay. Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you to Fairfield. I've been looking for someone to ask this question of. When we had to pump to waste, when we had TCE, and we had no ability to treat it, we pumped to waste, freeing up one of the wells to bring up drinking water at a safer level. Now, if we have to pump to waste, I understand that if our water gets shot, our supply is shot, the town of Walpole can only sell to residents, not to commercial property. My question to Fairfield is, will this apartment building be considered commercial property and have to buy water from a private source? Like I was involved in with Apple Tree Lane. They brought water in old World War II tanker trucks. So will they have to buy water privately, or will they get it from the town of Walpole? Are they commercial?
Do you understand the question, whether this is a residential development or a commercial development?
Yeah, I don't know that I qualified to answer that question.
Mr. Chair, it would be considered residential.
Okay, so from the peer review engineer, Mr. Hamilton, it's a residential project.
The principle there is that's their home, they can't go anywhere else, whereas commercial property, you don't have to go to work. So you can manage a water supply issue easier on a commercial property than you can for a residential.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Well, seeing that I'm not satisfied with his answer, because if a residential property is commercial property, the people can leave the resident rental properties, but homeowners can't. So is it a commercial property? I think it is. If you're renting property, you're a commercial operation. So no one's been able to clear that up. I thank him for trying, but I don't agree with it.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Because we've got other hearings tonight. Okay. Seeing that nobody else has anything, is September 6th, and we've already got a draft decision. One of the things, you're working with Concom on that public access, the walkway. I think that'll be important to get finalized.
Yeah, so let me just get that highlight on that. So an addendum, I guess you would say, to the comprehensive permit has been worked on between our council and the applicant's council. If the board thinks it's fitting, at the next meeting, we can start to go over in that decision, some of the waiver requests from the applicant, and proceed as is. So, as you know, in the modification, the board's involvement is related to the modification itself. It's not a whole look at the whole project overall, it's the modification request.
It's the modification. We also did receive a email from your engineering team today, Mr. Hale, today or yesterday, about the generator and fuel storage.
Yes.
So, is that something you're asking for a modification, or, because the term special permit was used?
So,
Your consulting engineer brought up the fact that we had originally planned to use natural gas on the project, and therefore natural gas for the generator. And maybe go back and look at the zoning code, and there is a provision for a special permit for tanks of fuel and other materials. And so I've requested, in addition to the modifications, a special permit that complies with the requirements of the zoning code, so that the generator can be fueled by. The generator is for the sewer pump station. You may recall that the land slopes from a high on Summer Street to a low at the back of the project. So all the sewer flows to the back of the project and then gets pumped up to Summer Street, and therefore, if the electricity goes off, there needs to be a source of power for those pumps, and so it needs a generator.
So instead of doing a special permit, because that would be a whole application process with the zoning board, I think what you should do is you should try to tie that into your request for this modification.
I thought that's what my letter implied, but maybe I didn't word it the right way, and so.
Yeah, I mean, I put the request of town council just to get further clarification, because to the chairman's point. So bring that into the modification request rather than having it be a separate process. I think it'd be a lot more straightforward.
Yeah, that was my intent, was to make it part of this process. Would it be possible to have town council talk to my council before the next hearing?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not an attorney, and
So, we're actually trying to make it easy for you. Because, is there not going to be natural gas at the project anymore?
No, it's all electric.
Electric.
It's much more environmentally friendly to use all electric, has a lower carbon footprint, et cetera. So it's a better plan.
Okay, and where we're already in the modification phase,
Yes.
this is a modification that I think we can work with, but
I would suggest
you'll
we
have
could just
town
square this up
council
with council.
figure that out,
Yep.
how to make that, because what you were asking for makes sense. I totally got it. It's just procedurally, how do we do it? Okay. Good. So, next, board members, anything else? Good?
I just have a question,
Yeah.
because I'm new at this modification thing. Do we have to approve the modification? I'm just asking for my own information.
Yeah, so that's actually a good question,
Thank you.
because the zoning board could say no to the modification and basically say, you've got your permit, live with it. At which point, I would think that the applicant would go to the Housing Appeals Committee and appeal our decision and come back, and we would have to, it would be remanded back to us to take another look at it. So, does that answer your question?
That answers my question. Thank you.
Meaning, if they send it back to us, we would not win. But
No, I understand that. Just,
Patrick, anything?
I was just going to say that it's same with any special permit. The board can choose to vote to accept, vote to deny. Comprehensive permit is a simple majority, though, rather than the special permit being a supermajority. And it's the same thing with pretty much any case. If you're going to deny a project, you need to have reason to do so. So it's just not just because you just don't like it. You have to
no,
have
I
a
understand
reason.
that.
Yep.
I understand that.
Okay, and I'll ask the applicant, do you want to continue this until September 6th at 7 PM here at Town Hall? Okay. At the request of the applicant, we'll continue this until September 6th, and at that meeting, we will probably have a draft decision. You'll have for us the plan with the walkway, and, any other things that can tie your project into the community to make it part of the community would be appreciated. Okay.
Do we have
so-
a motion to
Yep.
motion to continue?
I need a motion to continue until 7 PM here at Town Hall on September 6th.
So moved.
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Tim. Any further discussion on continuing? Okay. All those in favor of continuing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. My one request for people, as if you're leaving, last time it was a little noisy with everybody talking out in the hallway, if you could just take it further away from the room, because we have other hearings taking place. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay, next we have is case number 23-16, 1245 Washington Street, special permit under section 5D4A for earth removal, and special permit under 123C5 in order to increase impervious surface area within the Area 1 of the Water Resource Overlay Protection District. Okay. Is the applicant here? Yes. Okay.
Marking up at 1245 Washington Street.
So since we were here last time, do you have any updates for us? What have you provided?
Yes, the updated plans.
Yeah, so the applicant provided updated plans to town staff as well as with the town engineer to review the proposed changes. I believe the town engineer provided comments to that through a letter. I just do want to address, I submitted a letter today just from a conversation with the town engineer as well, just on a potential additional condition of approval. And so we can, the board wants to go over that.
Yep. But let's just, we have a, it's like an updated plan, and we've got proposed vegetated buffer, proposed evergreens that you'd be planting. What are the size of those evergreens?
6 to 8.
6 to 8 foot, okay. And those would be as shown on plan. And the slope, we've got it going from 230 feet down to 222 feet, so a drop of about 8 feet. Um, Feet over.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat that slope again?
What's that?
Could you just repeat the slope you just made?
Yeah, it's going to drop 8 feet over about 20 feet. Pretty steep. And on the other side, looks like, well, the other side's much less than that, only.
Yeah, it kind of curves down. Gradation's really hard on the left side.
Okay.
So the right side's pretty much flat.
And this material's being taken off-site, is that correct? Okay, and it's being used for off-site for septic work or something else?
Sure. It's fill.
It's fill, okay. But it's gravel that's coming out of that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things, we talked about this at the first meeting, and it has to do with permit to work in a public way, because the trucks that'll be taking this out would be going out to Washington Street, across the sidewalk onto the public way, and it would be normal to have this permit to work, and with that, there could be a bond of, it requires a $10,000 bond, certificate of liability insurance, and also to be signed off by the police department to make sure it's being done safely, and any damage to the sidewalk or public way would be covered, so.
No problem.
Okay. That was what, I want to make sure that was included in there. And I'll also add that this is, we spent a lot of time with another applicant earlier this year where he was leveling the backyard over on, I think it was Briarwood. That's not this case. This is actually being excavated and hauled out. So this is the two definitely different things going on here. In fact, yeah. Okay. Okay. Is there any board members have a question or comment on this? Judy?
Do we have what the grades or the slopes are from this property to the property north of it?
To the back?
To the front, no, to the right, facing the home, to the right, towards Hidden Lane. Does anyone have that?
No. We're building a berm right across the thing. There's no water. We're pertaining everything on 1245.
Okay.
If you look, it looks like this is the berm.
You got a hot top berm coming down the driveway. You got a berm coming across with the trees on it. There's nothing can escape.
So, looking at the existing conditions, right now, there's quite a slope. I'm not an engineer, but from the home towards the property line is quite a bit of slope towards the neighbor on the right.
No.
No? Okay.
On the right where the
On the
house
right,
is.
where the house is now, looking to the right.
Drive.
You could drive that?
Yeah, I did it today.
Okay.
And we're taking the slope out, whatever's there. There's like a 4-foot slope there.
So there's a
But
slope
It's not
there.
a slope,
I'll
it's just
ca-
a hill.
Okay, I'll call it a slope, you can call it a hill.
If you want, I don't care.
You can
When
tr-
I'm done with it, it'll be down, lower than the grade. It's on the plan.
Okay, well, my question was, through the chairman, if anyone has what the projections are to the neighbor below? No,
To the,
to the right.
to the right.
Yep, to the right out
think
on
when-
Washington Street and to the right on Hidden Lane, because I think they'll be affected as well. Well, that's my question. I'd like to get an answer from somebody at some point in time, okay? Is the existing driveway malfunctioning?
You can't get in the garage. It's almost impossible to get in the garage.
I guess I have to look at the plan again. I'll wait, defer to other members.
So I think when all is said and done, it looks like this backyard area is going to be lower than both houses on both sides. And am I correct? Any water will
Will
be
be me.
in this
It'll be sloped to
level
the
area
back.
where on our
Back
plan
to
it
the
shows, it says area 40,000.
Yep.
You know, the objective is trying to get that driveway out of the backyard also for them to have a backyard.
So one question, how are you increasing the impervious area? How are you increasing the impervious area?
So we put the driveway from the back out, put the driveway to the right side on, and you have all of the backyard. So one kind of washes the other. We were just over, actually, I think we came back under, the way me and Carl did it. So the driveway in the back comes out all the way to the front of the house. That all gets graded out.
Yep.
And then the driveway now comes down to the right side and goes beside the house.
Oh, okay, okay, now I see.
And that's where that 222 starts to come back into play. So it's flat.
And how do you access the garage in the back?
Right now,
No, when this is, when
no
this,
horseshoe right there. It's still hard to
Okay,
get to, but
okay.
it'll be flat.
Now I see.
Right now, she has to
like this.
really get
And there'll be
out
a
of the garage.
concrete slab?
Yeah.
Trucks that you, sorry, Chairman, can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Trucks that you're loading to haul material out, are they staying on the current driveway, or are you gonna be bringing them back onto this area that you're leveling off?
Everything's coming out.
Yep.
The only thing that will come back will be.
How are you gonna prevent tracking any material onto the public roadway?
Well, right now, the driveway's all paved, plus we'll put a stone berm.
You just
right
told
at
me
the
it's
bottom
coming
side.
out.
To the house. From the house forward is probably another 100 feet.
So you're gonna sweep every day?
Yeah, you can do that, plus
Okay.
you'll have a stone berm right in the
When you're
backside of
disturbing
it.
the front of the property closest to Washington Street, do you have any sort of dust mitigation planned as far as kids might be walking by? You wanna start at 7, right?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like a job to me, this is a friend's house.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I guess I'm more concerned for my own kid
Yeah, no,
and
there's
any
a
other kid
fence,
that might be
so
walking
the
by,
best
so
part
I
is
get it, it's
a
your
rail
buddy.
there. We can
Right.
put an orange fence on that rail, there's a post and rail fence there, I'll put an orange fence on that there.
Okay.
And we can put a sprinkler to keep dust
Right.
down. We have, but
Yeah.
the dirt that's there.
You're right between two schools. You got the high
Yes.
school on one side, you got Boyden
and
down
we're
the
not
other.
We're not going near.
Right.
We're taking a left and a right, and out they go, so.
So you want dust,
He said he'd sweep every day and then just, dust if it,
roadway swept. Okay. these are all conditions that the board can put in, such as roadway swept every day, dust mitigation every day.
In the bond.
Yep. The permit to work within a public way, that's an application. Anything else? Judy?
As you've just indicated, all the water that's going to land in this property is going to all flow into the property. So with the rains that we've had, what's going to happen if that swale fills with water and stays full of water?
Well, it's the whole backyard is being shedded off to an 80-foot cliff. So if we have a water problem, we got a water problem. Right now, all the water sheds to the neighbor's property. That will no longer be the case, nor did anything has moved in any of these rainstorms.
You see, it's
Yeah.
gonna shed off to the back.
Right, no, I can see the grades, yeah. Just another question, so that new driveway is how far away from the neighbor's side yard, their house? Is it 15 feet, 10?
Yeah, it's at least the edge of the driveway?
The edge of the driveway to their house,
Oh, wow.
because you're
30
going
feet.
right to the line. How many?
At least 30. Yeah. Yeah, so from the fence, we'll be 5 feet from the fence, then like 12 feet of driveway. So that house is definitely about at least 30 feet.
From your property line and your new wall to the neighbor's house. Patrick, do you know?
Property line doesn't move.
I know the property line
Right
doesn't
now,
move.
property line is probably, got to be 25, 30 feet for a sideline setback on the house in Walpole. I don't know what
What are
it
you
is.
asking, Mrs. Conrad?
No, I was wondering if you knew what the side yard to the abutting neighbor's house was.
Sideline setbacks.
Oh, for the district.
No, I
Yeah.
think she's asking.
For their home,
What's current?
for their house.
Oh, it'll
The
have to meet
homeowner.
The criteria there. I mean, whatever it is, it's 25 feet, it'll have to be 25 feet.
Stapled on the plan. I don't have the plan in front of me.
The side yard setback is 15 feet.
15 feet.
And
I think she's asking.
it's probably, oh yeah.
I don't mean the
It's
property
19.5.
owner's house, I mean the neighbor. That's fine. Maybe the neighbor's here and he can speak.
Okay. As we look at this and you've reviewed it, think about any conditions you want to make it, did you have something for kids walking by?
No, I just, the only other thing I was curious about is the sequence of work as far as stabilizing particular areas before others are disturbed. You know, if you just start tearing apart the site and you haven't stabilized kind of your overflows or anything like that, what would stop any sort of substantial rain runoff
Well,
at that point?
perfect. I mean, start in the backyard, get that all cut away, which it is right now. You know, even Kyle saw it. I have a swale I cut out down, so the water will not, if it ever
Okay.
did. Same thing, I would do the same thing, then work my way out to the front. As soon as I get the front done, pave it, put the berm, put the drainage in actually first, then pave it.
Yeah, just as long as there's kind of
Yeah,
a
there'll always be,
spelled out
something.
sequence, so
Yeah.
that way you don't run into a
Whatever.
scenario where we get some torrential downpour and
you haven't
we're
had it
running
yet,
off
you're not
into the
gonna get it.
neighbor's yard. Save you on the trucking costs anyhow, right? I mean,
Yep.
that way you don't have.
Listen, you can go to any one of my sites. I do not have any problems.
That's all I have.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public that wants to comment on this? Any neighbors or anybody? Yes.
Matt Kennedy, One Hidden Lane.
Yeah, you want to just come up here?
You know, I don't see any problem with any rain runoff. It's been dirt, loose dirt, for months, and we haven't had any runoff. So flattening it out is even going to help. So it's not going to be an issue. Everything looks good to me, and wish Dan luck.
Okay. So you've taken a look at this plan?
Yep.
You've seen the proposed evergreens?
Yeah.
It just says proposed evergreens. Usually we specify. Is there?
Yeah, we're
I think
gonna.
it said 6 to 8 feet.
Yeah, we're gonna put the green monsters there real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going. The engineer should have connected the dots. It's gonna go all the way.
Yep.
It's
Not,
gonna be continuous.
okay, but
They need the privacy, he wants his privacy.
evergreens, but green giants,
Yeah.
those are in arborvitae. Okay. Anything else? Oh, yeah, yes.
Steve Hendricks, Washington Street, right next door. You know, with the new plan, I think with the driveway coming down, I think the drainage looks sufficient. You know, according to the engineer plan, I think they just wanted a different setup for the way the you know, which one was high. I guess one was higher than another. I'm not sure how that all works, but I would like to
Well,
have that.
it's pretty simple.
So-
Water flows down.
I know it
right?
flows down, but I'm just looking at this and, you know, not having a good understanding all the time of what's here. But, you know, I know that the drainage is there. That's my main concern, putting in a brand-new asphalt driveway down, rushing to my yard. With the drainage, I think we should be good.
Okay.
Okay? And then-
So, and you also have some evergreens that are going to be planted up by
Yes,
your
I
house,
see that as well,
on the
yes.
plan?
Yep.
We're planning to go across with that. We put a certain amount, but the idea we're going was to get prices.
Okay.
So that's like the whole.
Okay. Okay. We're going to reference the plan, you know, and if you do more, great. You know, if you do less, not good. Okay. Okay. So it sounds like it's, anybody else? So it sounds like your two neighbors have seen this and they're good with it? Okay. So, so for some conditions, if you want to get these, as Mr. Delaney pointed out, roadway swept every day to reduce dirt, dust mitigation every day. As shown on the plan, evergreens will be the arborvitae green giants, 6 to 8 feet, as shown on the plan. So that's 3 points. Fourth point, removal of existing driveway in the rear beyond the end of driveway, end of drive as shown on the plan. Does anybody have anything else? Oh, yeah. The installer, this is from the town engineer's comment letter. The installer shall notify the engineering department prior to the installation and infiltration system for permitting and inspection. Another point, DPW engineering to inspect the grading prior to loam installation. Fourth point, another point, an as-built shall be provided to show the installed system, piping, and grading. And the last one, and Patrick, thank you for checking into this one for us. The applicant shall get a permit to work within a public way from the town for for this work?
Engineering department.
From the engineering department, yeah, okay. And that's to protect the roadway and the sidewalk from any damages from the heavy equipment going across it. Anybody have anything else?
Mr. Chairman, given that the driveway is now in a new location, is there any reason to restrict delivery trucks from entering, just in case? I don't think Amazon would ever do that, but
So, I mean, assuming they're gonna follow whatever the new driveway pattern is once it's established.
How do you have to drive over the front yard?
I don't think they can.
no, I know, I understand that, so there wouldn't be any other reason for deliveries of anything to the back of the property for any other purpose? No business related, other than just family and friends visiting?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Amazon.
They probably wouldn't, but I just thought maybe, it's a new spot.
stop them.
New spot in town, okay.
We're trying to avoid that Amazon does drive behind the house.
That'll be good.
Right now.
Or deliveries, okay.
Yeah, that's what they do. They drive behind his house to turn around. Then they see that they can't really get around.
Okay, all right.
Are you able to keep all the equipment on the property? As far as you're not gonna be parking out on the street, on the sidewalk, anything like that?
There's an acre of land there.
Okay.
Okay. So, did you get those conditions, Lauren?
Yeah, 8, unless you want to add, the equipment needs to be on site.
Drew's okay with that?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so, somebody, first off, last chance for comments. Everybody good? Board members, good? Do you want to close the hearing? Okay. Unless you have something else to add, it's
Nope,
it's
I'm-
appropriate to
I'm
close the
good,
hearing.
as long as everybody's good. I
Okay.
want you to
Yep.
install the.
Okay, so at the request of the applicant, could I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Drew. Any further discussion on, this is just to close the hearing? I'm closing the hearing, okay. Voting on this will be the 5 regular members and Mark. Okay. You've been here for everything, right? Mark? Okay. Okay. All those in favor of closing the hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, next, we will vote on approving the special permit for earth removal and special permit to increase the impervious surface area within Area 1 of the Water Protection Overlay District with the mitigation as shown on the plan. This plan is dated with the revised date of July 31st, 2023, and it is for for 1245 Washington Street. Okay. Anything else? And all the conditions that we previously outlined. Okay. Anybody else want to add anything on that? Okay. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the 2 special permits with the conditions previously outlined?
So move.
Moved by Drew,
Second.
second by Dave.
Mr. Chairman, should we
Yes.
vote them separately?
What's that?
The 2 special permits, should we vote them separately?
Correct. No, yeah, so there's a special permit under 9, I'm sorry.
Okay.
5D, for the excavation and filling, and then there's a special permit for 12.3C,
Okay.
exceeding the impervious within water resource protection overlay district.
So we can vote them, we definitely can vote them separately, so. Okay. On that, so for clarification, I'm not going to separate out the conditions, but on the first special permit, this first special permit for the earth removal, does somebody want to make a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Drew, second by Judy. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, so carried. Okay. Then the second one is special permit to increase the impervious surface area within Area 1 of the Water Protection Overlay District. Same conditions as we had before. Somebody want to
So moved.
move that?
Second.
Moved by Drew, second by Judy. Okay, all those in favor of approving that special permit, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So carried. Okay. So both special permits are approved with the conditions, and good luck with your gravel mining.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, actually, can we take like a 5-minute break, and we'll get to the next cases. Coming up next will be 104 Main Street. That is Old Carol's Cafe. What is it now? Cedar. Okay. This still is the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals, and we're going on with case number 23-17 for 104 Main Street. This is a special permit under section 93C of the Walpole zoning bylaws for expansion of an existing parking lot as it relates to a non-conforming use within the property zoning district. Okay, so Do you want to explain where you're at on this, this project?
Yes, good evening. My name is Brent Tardif with Ardent Group. I'm standing in for Joe Dorset, who was at the last several meetings. He's out of town, but I'm familiar with the project. I've been involved from the beginning. I put together the original application package. So the revised plan that you have now, I believe at the last meeting an issue came up regarding the need to have a 20-foot front setback. The previous version had the parking spots right up against the sidewalk there. So that's the real major change on this set of plans. And since we met last, Joe had a meeting with some of the abutters on the property to go over some mitigating measures that we want to include to address some of the concerns. Those include this 3-foot stockade fence, which I got a note from Patrick, I think, that it's not super clear right here that the.
So there's a proposed fence on the right side of the property, and it's proposed at 6 feet. However, in the discussion with the building commissioner, I think it was his comment, the portion of the fence that is within the front yard setback for the district, so it's an RB,
Right.
would need to be reduced to 3 feet. So I think this should be noted.
Yeah, so there's actually, it's not clear the way it's written because the fence there's one solid or dotted red line
Yeah.
for the fence, but there's a note down at the bottom that says proposed 3-foot high stockade fence. So I think we'll just need to revise the plan to differentiate it, showing that inside that 20-foot buffer that it will only be 3 feet.
Well, it would need to be the 30-foot buffer. So
the
30
front-
foot regarding the front setback. So the front setback for the district is 30 feet. So that fence within, and this is just a conversation with the building commissioner. So that fence, specifically the right-hand side where it says proposed 6 feet, about 30 feet of it from the start that's within that front setback would need to be reduced to 3 feet.
I see.
You know what I'm saying? So the front, obviously, you have it marked 3-foot stockade fence. That's fine. I think it just needs
Okay,
to
yep.
differentiate between the side and then where the front setback is for the district.
Gotcha. And then, I don't know if this might change things. One of the things that came out of the meeting that Joe had with the abutters, I'm not sure if the folks are here, but regarding the lot to the north, which is to the right on this plan, you can see that the fence as it is right now, it kind of cuts through some existing vegetation. So there was a discussion as to, rather than cut down native vegetation to put that fence there, maybe we just move the whole fence further south, which is to the left on this plan, closer to the outline of the parking lot itself. So that might mitigate that the height issue in the setback.
Okay.
And then some of the other, mitigating measures that we talked about that would be conditions that we would be looking for would be there's some noise concerns about the patio that's there right now. So we would replace the lattice with solid panels to mitigate some of that noise. Apparently I guess there's been some karaoke and some PA speakers out on the patio. The owner's not gonna do that anymore. And then the big thing was a stockade fence along the south side of Route 1A, which isn't it's not on my base sheet, so it's not depicted on this plan. I have to get some CAD files from the DOT in order to illustrate that. But we'd be proposing a 6-foot high stockade fence along the south of 1A for the full length of the restaurant. So that would cut down on noise from the noise and light from the restaurant, and also just from the state highway there.
But that's not on the plan, so we're not
Right,
we're not
right.
discussing that really.
Okay.
I mean, in fact, I'm not sure what that actually does visually to have a restaurant with a stockade fence out in front of it.
I'm sorry. So this would be on the opposite side of the street in the easement on the.
On the opposite side.
Yes.
Of
yeah.
1A.
Yep.
Okay. When you said the opposite side, I thought you meant the opposite side of the property.
And we're anticipating that it will it may be challenging getting approval from Mass DOT to install that in the easement. So a plan B for that would be to install the fence in the backyard of the neighbors along that stretch. And several of the neighbors, I believe, are amenable to that.
That's not shown on, that's.
Right,
that's
yeah,
separate.
again,
It's better if we just talk about, you know, what's taking place with this plan.
Okay.
And, because we can't we're not gonna link, something that's gonna take place off-site with the decision.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so let's, as we look at this plan, a few things. The handicap spots have been moved, which is good. I think one of the neighbors pointed out that the ones that were there really were not sufficient, so those have changed.
Yeah, I think there was some concern that the space that's to the left of the restaurant was no longer met the dimensional requirements for a van access. It would remain as a standard handicap space, not non-van accessible, but space number 1 there would be the van space.
Okay. And so let's talk about this fencing.
Talk about the parking space.
On the front, Patrick, what were you saying that in the front they show a dotted line for a 3-foot stockade fence? Is that too close to the road, or what's the story with that? Or is it okay?
I believe that's the 3-foot fence is permissible. I believe the email from the building commissioner had to do with where it proposes 6 foot, being within the front setback. So I guess if you're looking at it, the southern, actually more the northern portion of the property, where that fence it says 20 feet right there, because that's a 20-foot setback regarding that condition of that section of the bylaw. But within 30 feet, that would need to be reduced to 3 feet to match.
Okay. So almost where that arrowhead is located, if you look at the plan, Patrick, do you have the plan in front of you?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
Yeah, and almost, that's probably about 30 feet, yeah.
This section right here.
Right, so that should be at 3 feet, because we don't want to block.
So that section where it's
We don't wanna block sight lines.
that whole area would be gotcha. It's a line of sight.
Okay, so that'll be a condition, Patrick and Lauren. 3-foot stockade fence, 30 feet from the roadway, just so that we're clear, and then after that, it can be 6 feet. And I think when you work with the building inspector, even though you're showing a straight line, there's flexibility with, where that fence actually goes, once you get on site.
Okay.
Because you said you wanted to leave some of the natural
Yeah,
vegetation.
you can kind of see it's in the dull gray in the existing conditions plan. There's the vegetation that's delineated, and we would probably just move the whole thing, inside, so that we're not needlessly taking down any of that vegetation.
There's flexibility with that on the plans.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yep.
Can you go over exactly how you figured out the additional parking spaces based on what? Based on square footage, based on number of seats in the restaurant, based on a table in our zoning chart?
We worked backwards from the 50% calculation. That's basically there's a limit to how much you can expand an existing non-conforming use. So we worked backwards from that. The client was aiming for as much parking, as possible, and we worked within that expansion framework.
So Are you referring to the parking table?
Yes, I
So,
am, sir.
For this type of use, I think it falls in the parking code 3, so there's a minimum, there's not a maximum.
Correct.
So the minimum, it's based on essentially seating.
Seating.
When it's fixed seating or basically non-fixed seating, open public space, so
Right.
depending. If
Okay,
it's
so-
non-fixed, it would be 20 square feet of public area shall equal 1 seat. And I believe 4 seats equates to 1 parking space.
Okay. So, the other part of that code is, it goes by square feet, 1 seat for every 20 square feet of public floor space shall equal 1 seat. My question is, what public floor space are you using to calculate the additional spaces?
Well, I don't think he really needs to. There's a minimum, there's not a maximum. So he's allowed to provide additional spaces depending on his own
So
prerogative.
I
really.
was questioning this when this application first came in
Yeah.
months ago. And isn't it coming down to that this is a non-conforming use and they're increasing the non-conforming use and they can increase it by 50%?
Correct. That's what's before.
And
the
so
board.
I was looking at just the parking area, and they have 18 parking spots, so my initial thought was 18 parking spots, that's pretty straightforward. If you increase it by 50%, you get 9 more spots. Well, they're getting like 18 more spots. They're doubling the parking. But what they're doing is they're considering the building, the patio, and the existing parking non-conforming use. And then they're increasing that by 50%.
Okay, so I'm going to be picky. It says fixed, not fixed, so 20 square feet is equal to 1 seat per public floor area. Say, and I got this from Mr. Crowley this afternoon, the kitchen in the restaurant is not considered public. So my
I
question is...
understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, but it doesn't matter for this case. You can have there's no maximum.
He explained it's minimum, I understand that, but my question I asked of him is if this was in an allowable area, what could this restaurant have for parking?
Yep.
And basically, they could have the 17 spaces. And I get the non-conforming use, I just don't feel like it's the proper calculations have been done, because and I know it's non-conforming, but it doesn't mean that these rules don't fit a non-conforming space.
But so the parking count, though, that's only for the minimum. If they feel they have an extra demand, if they have the space for it, they can have more parking, if this was like a new construction. But we're not looking at really that count. We're looking at the increase of the non-conforming nature by 50%, and that's including open floor area as well as the structure itself.
Right.
So we're gonna not talk about the fact that the bylaw says public floor space. So you're gonna count the parking lot they have,
I still
the
refer
second
to-
floor, the front porch, and the patio.
It's irrelevant. So it's a minimum. They're allowed to have a maximum if they can, meet all the dimensional
But
regulations.
Patrick, what I'm saying is they've maxed out the square footage
Yeah.
by adding all these, quote, public spaces when the bylaw says public floor area. So we have to ignore the fact that we're gonna let them use the existing parking lot.
Yeah. I'm just not following. They're before us.
The non-conforming use is the parking lot, it is the building, it's the patio, it's everything that you've just said.
So I'll ask the engineer or the applicant, what did you consider as the area in order to calculate the additional 19 spaces?
Under the advisement of Jim Crowley, we use the entire currently developed area as basically the footprint of the property as it is developed right now. The residential use is on the second floor. It was not double counted. We just did the area of the building itself because the entire first floor is non-conforming commercial use.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. I don't agree with it. And Mr. Crowley even gave me a little scenario here, so he seems to be contradicting himself with what he's telling you the whole property versus, for example,
Bless you. So I had the, like I
Minus-
said, I questioned this, I was thinking, okay, 19's, like I said, what is it? I guess 17, well,
They
it
have-
used to be 19 spaces.
I think we're down to 14 in this latest
Okay,
revision.
but we're looking at this as a non-conforming use with all the space, and that's why it has nothing to do with seating area or anything like that. It's the non-conforming use of the property. Is that?
No,
'cause
that's correct. I mean,
that's-
if they want to maximize that and utilize that for parking, that's.
And they can
what they're
increase
doing
it by
that for.
50%.
Correct.
Non-conforming use.
Yeah. That's.
And it's a one-shot deal. They can't come back next year and
Correct.
get another 50%, so.
Yes.
Do I, I don't particularly, well.
No, I mean-
I think this plan is better, but I think that it's,
I think it's a big ask. I think the 50%, I think they should follow our own table, 8,
but that's for a minimum.
for minimum. I understand that.
And you're saying that they should not be allowed to have extra parking?
Well, I just want to know why we're counting the entire parcel. It's a restaurant. What would they
My
get?
understanding is that we needed to work within the framework of that rule regarding expanding a currently non-conforming use.
And parking
we-
itself
we-
is non-conforming. It's a non-conforming, I guess you would call it commercial use.
Mhm.
And so open ground floor area, how the bylaws are written, that's where they're getting that percentage from. That percentage increase, they're counting the existing parking space, which is non-conforming to that district. It's what the bylaw says.
I think we should have stuck to 8.3 and make them come for a variance, not a special permit.
Okay, well,
It didn't happen,
But that's not what the applicant applied for.
correct.
And-
So are we in the right to?
We are.
Look at this.
no, this is the correct application that the applicant is here for.
And this, yeah. So, I had questions at the beginning of this process, but it has to do with non-conforming use, and it's increasing it by 50%, and that's what they're doing. I'll also add that since we had comments from the neighbor at the first meeting, this is I think it's much better, and hopefully, that's why I value a public hearing, because, everybody's input makes us better. Okay. Anybody have anything else on this? And then I'll open it up to the public. You good? You good? Judy?
Nope, but not for now.
Okay.
Hear what the public says.
Anybody from the public want to comment on this?
Good evening. Paul Quinn, 12 Christina, directly across from the new parking lot, I guess is what it is. So I was at the meeting the other night, and I'm not sure, they were going to give us mitigation, was a 6-foot fence along our backyard, the first 4 houses. I don't know about the length of the parking lot or the length of but now you say you can't, enforce that or put that as a condition? That's outside the deal now?
That's outside, that should be outside the deal, because we can't put a condition on property that the applicant doesn't control.
All right, well, so.
I mean, I think one of the things that I see on this, and I think it was you at the first hearing, or was it your brother?
My brother is the more.
He was very articulate.
Knowledgeable about the zoning.
Yeah,
I
and
know
so-
about the noise because I live there.
Right, but,
So-
one of the things, it's better now than it was, a lot better, as far as protecting you and your neighbors and just making this whole thing better. But, I don't, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, can we condition something on?
For something
else?
off-site, I would not do that with, no.
No.
I mean, if it's something you want to discuss with the applicant, that's that's your own prerogative, but
Well,
it's not relevant to this.
The one we spoke with isn't here tonight, so, I mean, I'm not sure.
If I may, he's, you know, Joe, we wanted to work with the neighbors and make the situation amenable to everybody. And, you know, he certainly, that's something we want to pursue, installing that fence. I was hoping we could codify it in some way that would give you confidence. But I didn't understand that was outside of the.
I was told a long time ago, if it ain't written down, you ain't getting it. So,
Yeah, no, I
mean.
You're
in-
right,
in
Paul.
zoning-
You're right.
In zoning,
That guy gave me some good advice, Mr. Russell, the attorney, so.
yeah, so, but we can't,
You can't do it. It's out of your perusal.
we can't say that you must put up a fence on somebody else's property, because what if you or one of your neighbors says, I don't want the fence now? You know, I mean, it's.
Yeah,
you're right,
it
it's-
leads to,
You can't enforce it.
So,
So.
at that meeting, we also discussed, he was very, well, it was a gravel parking lot, he said they would pave it, because the six of us that were there were against the gravel, because that made a lot of noise, cars turning, cars burning out. He said they would do the extra work and pave it. So I don't hear that, anything about being paved now. If you want to speak to that.
Yeah, do. Yeah, proposed edge of pavement, of paving, and it shows
The whole parking lot paved, not gravel.
6,000 square feet of pavement.
So that's in there.
The new parking area
No,
would be
okay,
paved.
it's
Yep.
paved.
That's, I mean, if it's yeah, 6,000, looks like there's 2 feet difference that's not paved. I don't know where that is, but, yeah.
We'll let that go, I guess.
Yeah.
But then the fence that goes, I guess, east or west, on the north side, as you say, that's like a barrier at their house. That's not gonna be a 6-foot fence
No, so,
for 30 feet?
yeah, Patrick, why don't you show them, because you've got the plan right there.
This section right here, so this is the boundary line of the property.
Right.
So within the front setback for this district, that fence needs to be lowered to 3 feet. So this may be 6 feet, so long as it's not within 30 feet of the front setback.
30 feet from the street?
30 feet from the boundary line.
From the street?
Well, the property line.
Yeah, pretty much the street. So,
Yeah.
and you see why you don't want to have a 6-foot fence going right out to 1/8.
No, I understand the 3-foot fence is gonna go
30 feet.
south to north to block the lights, and then there's gonna be another 3-foot fence that goes east to west at the property line?
East to west for 30 feet,
And then it can go up to
And
then
then
it can
goes
go
up
up
to
to
6.
6 feet.
But that's halfway past their house.
No, it's not, 30 feet.
No,
But
I mean,
it-
if you're looking at this, I'm not an engineer, this is 20 feet, so if you can think about half of that. Realistically. But I mean, I'm not the engineer.
And then this is a 3-foot fence?
Yes.
Correct. All right. So, I'm still opposed because of the noise. And the applicant, the expert, he said that's the site noise, you block the site. The noise comes at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night into my bedroom, like, you can't block that. So, I still am opposed, I still am opposed. And it's not good for the neighborhood, I don't feel. It's a detriment to the neighborhood. So, I'm a 5-minute walk from Windsor Gardens community. There's no parking there. Can I come in tomorrow and pave my backyard and park cars in my backyard?
No, because that's,
You-
I mean,
That's ridiculous.
no, there's many, when it comes to zoning, there's many reasons why you can't do that.
Yes, but they can hear, but I can't
And
hear.
it's because it's a non-conforming use. That bar's been there since,
I understand that. And
The end
it
of
was-
World
and it was
War
a
II.
bar, like, not a restaurant, and the patio wasn't part of it in the original, like, for the non-conforming, and they counted that in the 50%, so,
oh, yeah, no, I looked at the 50% of, what was the non-conforming use of the area. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Good evening. My name is Robert Quinn. I'm brother of Paul, and I Thank you for listening to me. I submitted a letter, I wasn't able to make the July meeting that you had, and I submitted a letter through the town offices. I believe that you received that. I hope that you did receive, okay, excellent. Couple of things. One is, I'm glad to see the changes have been made in the handicapped area and in the setback area. I would suggest, though, with respect to the handicap lots that are there, if you're coming in, you have an access problem, you're gonna park over there. The ramp is at the far end of the building. There's a space in between that is accessible. Most frequently, there is a car or a truck parked in that space, making that space inaccessible to anyone who has to walk around there. So there needs to be some sort of a bollard, some sort of a blocking that will prevent trucks from, and cars from parking in the space which is immediately in front of the restaurant. That's point one. Point two is, and I hate to beat a dead horse, but the 50% rule. And I understand, and I've been looking at it, but one of the things that has not been enunciated here is that the ordinance says when you're looking at any increase in size, no, let me just quote it. Any increase in size will be measured against the total floor area plus the open ground area that existed at the time the use became non-conforming. At the time the use became non-conforming. So you have to go back and find out, when did this property become non-conforming? And that methodology has never been done here. We're just assuming that it's been that the entire lot that's been used today, including the parking and the building, all the building and so forth, has always been is non-conforming. We don't know that was the case back when this originally became non-conforming. My suspicion is, looking at the pictures that are shown on the website of the applicant and at the zoning code of Walpole, is that this lot became non-conforming when the zoning code was adopted in 1923, I believe it is. Because at that time, it was a gas station, it was a restaurant, and it was a residence. And if it was zoned Residence B at that time, that's when it became non-conforming. So you need to look at the square footage at that time and then make a determination as to what the 50% would be of that number, not the current number. That's not an easy thing to do, but the applicant hasn't even started that process.
Can you give the, first off, thank you for that. Can you tell us where that is in the
Walpole zoning lot?
The chapter and...
Yeah, I have section 9(3)C. And it's quoted in the letter that I sent to you last month. I apologize for not having been able to make it to the last meeting. The very last phrase,
Okay. So, so the question is, back in 1956, when zoning was adopted here in Walpole, what was, how much space was the building and how much parking was there?
exactly.
Okay.
And
See, Judy, I think this addresses...
I think that's where I was trying to go when I asked a question at the last meeting of the applicant or the other gentleman that was here. It says floor area. I read that out at the meeting. It says floor area.
No, but it's also
And I
floor
think-
area and parking, because the parking is
Yeah, okay, well,
But the problem is that I think now what I'm saying, looking at is, what was the original, what was the original non-conforming situation for this? It was, and the applicant's gonna have to do some digging to figure out what was actually there in 1956, because I know they didn't have this much parking when I was,
no, they did not.
when I was a kid, so.
That was a while ago.
It was.
Okay.
But, okay. That changes things.
And I think I was.
You spoke to the building commissioner about this as well?
I spoke with him before, and I know that the applicant had gone over the numbers with him, and the building commissioner apparently took those numbers that are in front of you and accepted those. I suggested that I was not comfortable with that and with my reading of the zoning code. Because it becomes useful, and the chairman is right. You get one shot at this, and if you're always looking at what was the case at the time of the application, which is what we're doing in this particular case, then next year they can come in and look for a 50% increase over what is non-conforming in 2024. And you just fill up the entire lot, and that's not clearly what was intended by this, by the zoning code that is there. The other thing that I pointed out is that there is a violation currently of the special permit issued by this board for that patio area. The special permit allows for, I believe it is 6 tables of 24 seats, and max. 18. And that's the same permission that they received from the Board of Selectmen under their liquor license for 18 seats. As of this past Sunday, these pictures will show you, let me present them to you.
Thank you.
Those pictures will show you that the patio area actually has approximately 10 tables, 2 bar shelves, and seating up to 42 seats, well in excess of the 18 that was allowed by this board, as well as by the selectmen in the liquor license. But at this time, I don't think it is appropriate to then grant another special permit to an applicant who is in violation of its existing special permit.
Which decision are you referencing when you talk about this board?
This board, special permit was given in, was it 2004?
Okay.
Or 2002, or was it 2007? I don't remember the exact time when it was given, but it was given by this board, and the conditions were.
I do want to reference, I know what you're talking about, this decision. It was using the former the zoning bylaws, so this is before the recodification, so the numbers are a little bit off, I guess, from what they are now in terms of the sections referenced. But it was applied under one section, and then a special permit was granted under a completely different section.
A special permit? Okay.
Essentially for an expansion of a non-conforming use. This was this is case 2504 from October 7th, 2004. We discussed this in-house when we got the letter from the gentleman here. I would consider that the decision issued improperly. It wasn't advertised correctly, and it wasn't, it was essentially given relief for something that was not even requested. So I'm not sure what happened in 2004, but the way I would look at it is, it essentially created a non-conforming situation that.
But what he's saying is they're in violation. They were given a special permit for a certain number of seats, and they've exceeded that. Is that
correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's.
That's something different than what I'm referencing it then, because what I'm referencing had to do with square footage.
Well, if it was improperly put in front of the board, then they don't have the special permit to increase their space.
If the board issues something.
The board issued a special permit that had put conditions on it, said, I think, actually 18 spaces, and they're at 42 seats.
Correct. If it's related to this one, though, all I'm saying is if it's issued improperly, and the applicant, it's not the applicant's responsibility to correct the improperly issued decision. It's on, the onus is on the town. So I think it's 6 years.
I think the point that the gentleman is making is that they're not in good standing. They're in violation of a special permit, and it has to do with a special permit they had for a non-conforming use, and that's what we're talking about. So, so what I see going on, and board members speak up if you agree or disagree. I think the applicant has some more work to do, and particularly on that bit about any increase in size will be measured against the total floor area plus the open ground area that existed at the time the use became non-conforming, because that's, you know, that takes out this, well, I don't know, probably takes out the patio, probably takes out some of the parking, and then that's the number that we have to start with for the non-conforming use.
And you look at the buildings that are there, I mean, there's a garage there. I would suggest to the board that that garage was conforming, because it was used by the residents in the building, more than likely. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that if it's a fair assumption that there's a garage there, it's not used by the restaurant, it's used by the residents in the building.
That's
So
an
that
assumption.
space would be that space would have been conforming.
At the time.
At the
right,
time.
At the time, in 1956 or whenever we're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, so I thought we were going to wrap this up tonight, but I think that the applicant has to go back and find out what the square footage for non-conforming was at the time of, you know, at the time it became non-conforming. Other board members, what do you think? You can ask your father, he probably remembers what it was like.
He's told me my grandfather used to have a beer there on Saturdays.
That wasn't a question, Tim. Just as a point of information, the building inspector says that they have a posted OCC, which I assume means occupancy certificate, for 67 people. So, sounds like there's a few extra seats there somewhere. We need to check that out. Or someone needs, complaint-based, so someone needs to call in.
But I think for what we're looking at is, we're looking to increase the non-conforming use, and what it comes down to is, we need to know what the amount of non-conforming use was on the property when the zoning was implemented, and that's gonna take the applicant some time to figure out. So,
I would ask maybe we have the building commissioner here for the next meeting to explain his interpretation of that.
okay. No. That's fine. So, yes, Mr. Quinn.
So just, I mean, if I'm doing the math, and they're allowed 18 by the liquor license for the patio, and you take away the 22 extra seats, maybe they don't need the parking. That's just my comment.
Again, it's interesting that this board, you know, and none of us were here in 2004, but the zoning board issued a special permit, and now it's, you know, it's in violation. That's not good. We don't like that.
One bite at the apple, one special permit.
That's going to be another question for the building inspector, when you increase your but they didn't increase it by 50%. And they, I don't know, they got a special permit for what, an outdoor patio?
I would argue again that the special permit was issued incorrectly in 2004, and so has been existing. It's not.
But that's, okay.
It's not, that's, if they are issued an incorrect decision, it's on the onus is on the town. So if the applicant was given that decision, they've essentially, I think it's Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, after so many years, that now becomes a non-conforming situation. So that's my opinion on it. I mean, that we could discuss at the next meeting.
But either way, I've always thought that the bit about the non-conforming use, I'm glad it's right in the bylaw that says you have to measure it from the time that it became non-conforming. But we can have Mr. Crowley here if he has a different interpretation of it, but it's pretty clear. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I will be happy to follow up on whether that permit was issued properly or improperly with the staff here, with Patrick. And, you know, if it was not issued properly, then they shouldn't be operating an outdoor patio, would be the conclusion. And if that's the conclusion, that's fine. You know, if the applicant wants to, if the town wants to revoke the special permit that was issued back in 2004. But we're not asking for that, but we certainly could be looking into that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so you understand, you've got some work to do, I think, to find out, what the
Yeah.
existing conditions, what the existing non-conforming was when zoning was implemented.
Sure, I understand. And as far as the patio goes, I honestly can't speak to violations going on. I mean, our client acquired the property in 2015. Maybe there's some mission creep with general managers and lack of communication between restaurant operations and ownership. I can certainly advise them to look at that more closely. But I don't know if the patio issue would change. The area calculation is based on floor space plus open space, so the space that the patio occupies was, well, it's moot. I have to look at it. I have to look at the 1956.
I think the big one is the floor space and, as you said floor space, and the parking. Because whatever parking was there in 1956, or whenever the zoning was implemented, that would be your starting point for non-conforming.
Right. Okay.
Okay, well,
Mr.
this
Chairman,
continues.
someone else
Oh,
wants to
yes, do you want to come forward? Yeah.
Hi, Mary Ann Randall, live on 84 Main Street, right next door, on the right-hand side if you're looking. My major concern is your current drawings. It shows the fence between our property and the bar is going through the current tree line. I would like to ask that maybe for the next meeting that we have plans that show where it will actually be, because they mentioned that they would move it so they don't have to cut those trees down. So before you make your decision, if we could just get an updated plot of where that fence will be. And the 3-foot difference, because right now that 3-foot section is set 20 feet back from the road, and now you want 3 feet for another 10 feet on our side, and then it can go up to 6 feet, I guess, for viewing
Be 30 feet from the
from the street.
back.
Okay,
and
so
then it
that'll
can
be
go
3
up.
feet, and then it can go up to
Right.
6? Okay, that's fine, but I just wanted to see if we could get an updated plot plan showing the fencing not in the current tree line.
Okay.
That's
You-
possible.
You heard that? That makes it better so that we all are clear
Yeah, so you make a decision on what it really looks like as opposed
what
what we're saying.
it might look like. Okay, no, I agree. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Patrick, what's the next continuation of Warren for this?
So, we have September 6th. We have September 6th here.
Is that going to give you enough time to find out what the existing conditions for non-conforming was?
I don't know if you can, obviously this information is going to be challenging to track down. I can look at some ortho photographs, but I don't know how the aerial photography was looking back then. I don't know if you can point me to any kind of standard of care that I should use in this research, or I mean...
I'm not going to give you any legal advice, but the
Okay,
building inspector is always a good person to start with.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think we could put something together for the 6th.
You want the 6th?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you can't make it by the 6th, just contact the office and you'll get a,
Okay.
continue, we can schedule
All right.
it.
I know.
What's that?
I think the 6th, we got a lot going on the 6th. So I'm just,
Yeah.
Okay, then what,
I think the problem is Bob can't make the 18th or the 4th, September 18th or October 4th. So to have everyone be able to vote that was originally on it, September 6th would be the only date as opposed.
Well, that's the thing. So, I mean, if the 6 would be with the 5 original members. If the board wants to go with the 18th, then either Mr. Hager or
Yeah.
Mr. Major would need to fill in for Mr.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have alternates.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, so we can put it to, what, the 18th?
The 18th would be the other.
That would be, and what else do we have on that night?
The Neponset 40B, and then we just got another application in for Main Street.
Okay.
So it would just be, yeah.
Okay, so, do you want to continue until September 18th?
Yeah, that should be fine.
So,
Do we need any extensions?
Do we need an extension on this? How are we doing on time?
Yeah, I think we should. I think, yeah.
We're approaching it, so I think it might be best to get an extension.
Like September 30th.
Yeah.
Or-
Okay, so
Yeah.
an extension until December 1st.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yes, and I just need to write you a letter for that, is that
Yeah,
correct?
just
Okay.
a letter saying, but I mean, that you grant an extension until, December 1st.
Sure.
Yeah, it can be submitted on the record. I mean, we can even just take a vote of the board, record that vote, and then submit it to the town clerk. So.
Right. So,
Email's fine.
Okay, thanks.
so, does somebody want to make a motion at the request of the applicant to continue this case until September 18th, 7 PM here at Town Hall, and an extension of time until December 1st?
So moved.
Moved by Judy. Second. Second by Drew. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, so we've got some work for you, and thank you, everybody. So, next. What? No, 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 no. We've got two more hearings.
I thought he wanted to speak on this one. We
yeah.
didn't see him.
Poor guy, he had a heart attack.
No, sorry, no, we wouldn't do that to you. This has been a busy night. We're trying to move it along, so. Okay, are you here for Common Street? I sure am. Okay, yeah, okay. Next case is, case number 23-24 for 424 Common Street, special permit under 12(3)C of the Walpole zoning bylaws for modification of a pre-existing non-conforming one-family dwelling that exceeds the impervious surface requirements for residential use within the water protection overlay district. Okay. Okay. As we get our packages, do you want to introduce yourself and walk us through what you're proposing?
Kyle Laidman, 424 Common Street. I just moved my father in with me, so we want to do some additions to make the house a little more livable for two grown men. With that, there was an issue that came up with the impervious coverage. I had a plan engineered. You can see on the plan that I am existing at 15.65% impervious, I believe. So I'm already over the 15%, and I think it's going up to 23 and change, if I can recall.
I saw the calculations that you had here. Who did these calculations for you?
Rim Engineering out of Mansfield.
So, they did your plot plan, and they also did your the calculations and
For
the
the
soils,
proposed addition.
for the proposed addition and the infiltration system.
Yes, there's already an existing infiltration system on the existing house.
So, as I looked at the plans, it looks like you're going to be close on the sidelines, and the setback is, for the side is 15 feet.
Yes.
You're going to be at 14 feet.
I have 109.66 feet of frontage on the road, so I get 3 bonus feet.
Okay, okay.
It worked out by about 6 inches, I think.
Yep, okay. And same thing on the other side where you drop to 12 feet, is that,
Yes. I think it's a little more than 12. I do believe I have
yeah,
about
12, 8?
6 inches
Okay.
to spare.
Okay, okay. And you talked to the building inspector?
I've talked to
went through all
him. He's the one that clued me into the bonus feet, so.
that? Okay. So, yeah, I took a look at your I didn't know who did the calculations, but the calculations looked good. I know town engineer reviewed it. They talk about the soils in that area, so. I don't have any questions. Board members, does anybody have anything? Okay. Is there anybody from the public? I guess you're it for the public at this point. Anybody for the public that wants to speak on this? No? Board members, questions? You said you put in, this is not it's not an in-law.
It's not an
that you're-
in-law suite,
yeah,
no.
So you're just making the house larger?
Taking a wall out in the living room and adding a bedroom on the basement, a new garage with a master suite above it.
Okay.
So we can be at other ends of the house.
Yep, but it's, you're not adding a bath, not adding a kitchen or anything like that,
No,
so,
no.
okay. You good?
Yeah.
Hi.
Tim?
No, good.
Good.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty straightforward, I think, and it meets all the requirements, and the infiltration should take care of any of the excess water. So, a few things for conditions, any standard conditions, and then from the town engineer, one, engineering department should be notified by the installer prior to the installation of infiltration system, and two, the as-built should show the installed infiltration system. So those two conditions, nothing else. Fire department, standard condition, and police just did not have any public safety concerns. Okay. Do you want to close the hearing?
Pardon me?
Do you want to close the hearing? Unless you have something else to add?
I've got
Probably-
nothing else.
Probably good, yeah, it's just, you got everything you need here. Everybody's good with it? Okay, voting on this will be the regular members and Tim. Okay. Okay, does somebody want to make the motion to approve?
Do you want to close?
Oh, yes, sorry, getting late. Could I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Judy, second by Drew. Any further discussion on closing the hearing? At the request of the applicant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, next we have, somebody want to make a motion to approve the addition and, well, the special permit for modifications of a pre-existing non-conforming one-family dwelling that exceeds the impervious surface requirements within the Water Protection Overlay District for number 424 Common Street, based on the plans dated June 13th, 2023 by RIM Engineering. And yeah, that's it. With the standard conditions in those two from the town engineer.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, does anybody want to add anything else for conditions? Okay. Okay. All those, moved by Judy, second by Drew, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Okay. That was a long night. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay.
I know.
Next. 18 Arbor Court, case number 23-27 for a variance under 6B1 of the Walpole zoning bylaws for construction of a portico within the front yard setback. Okay. I know the applicant is here. If you want to come forward, explain what you're proposing to do.
So this is related to just putting like a shed or portico on the steps that we already have, which is 4 feet from the house. The house currently is, well, when after we put the permit, we were reminded that there was supposed to be a bulb, and we are 32 feet from there, the house starts. So stairs are, for last 20 years, they are, I think 2 feet are within the zone and 2 feet are in the setback. So if we want to put a portico or just like a roof on the stairs, that I guess we are requesting for that.
Okay, so you've explained what you want to do, and for a variance, did the building inspector or somebody in town hall explain a variance is a pretty hard thing to get from the zoning board? Okay, and so with a variance, you have to explain why you cannot comply with the zoning bylaws to basically get what you want to do. And I saw in your application that it was, you asked for the variance for the front yard setback, and then the rest was I guess you had the narrative, okay. So, yeah, when it comes down to it, why do you feel you need this variance?
Because the 2 feet is too short. It doesn't, like when the rain and everything comes, when you open the door, it comes in with the wind and everything. And so we were just trying to make sure, we just replaced the front door, so that it was the part of that permit was replacing the front door and then adding the portico, because actually the door, the bottom, things have gotten rotted, and that's why we had to change the entire, thing. We were hoping that we can save the door, plus the people, we come in and our aged parents come in, when the weather is not good, it just helps, that's all.
Okay. So the good news is, none of the town boards had any concerns. Fire department had no concerns, Board of Health had no concerns, and Conservation had no concerns. I've got concerns that for a variance, that I don't see how this rises to the level of a variance. Anybody want to discuss?
Don't you have to display a hardship? Isn't that part of the?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if that rises to a hardship level, but.
Yeah, I guess one
question I have is, if this was not granted, do you have kind of another idea of a way to solve? It sounds like the solve is, how do we stop rain and whatever from coming
Yeah.
into the front door when
Yeah.
it's, so if a roof couldn't be built, is there any other options for you to do it, or do it differently?
Not that I can think of, that's why.
Well,
It's a shorter roof.
we did have a conversation about this before,
Oh,
so.
oh, yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Oh, like like,
So, a projection is allowed to encroach 18 inches over
Yeah.
the boundary line. I guess the portion of this, if it was not covered, could go into the setback up to 4 feet. So, in theory, you could cover the portion up to the boundary line, put a post, or so to speak, and
Okay.
then 18 inches could project over the boundary line. That's a use that could be done by right, but it wouldn't be 4 feet. It would be around 42 inches, depending.
it would be like 3.5 feet.
Yeah, it'd be depending on the accuracy of the plot plan. If it actually is 32 feet from the boundary. So, and that is, I think, section 6C with projection. So that's 6C11, just for reference.
I took a look at it, and variances are hard to get, and it's usually based on the topography of the lot, some circumstance that is beyond your control, and it's not trying to get around existing zoning, and I don't see how this meets any of them. I understand the desire to have a portico, but it's not, at least from my perspective, it doesn't reach that level. And there is a way to do it, as Patrick described, that meets with the zoning.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would not be exactly what you're looking for, but I guess by right, you're able to get most of what you're looking for. It just would require some changes and modifications to.
And it might be slightly smaller.
Yeah, it might be slightly smaller, or at least the roofed portion. You could still have that, I guess the lower portion exceed up to 4 feet into the setback.
Okay, so you're saying that if the poles are like, okay, so maybe I can work with like what will be in the zone?
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell you how to design it, but I mean, if you brought this concern to the building commissioner as well, to the building department,
Okay.
you could have the portion roofed up to the boundary. So this is how they basically determine that if it counts as a structure. Once you put the roof on it, then essentially, you can't impede into the setback. But you're allowed essentially that what's called like projection. So like that roof unsupported below could project up to 18 inches.
18
into the
inches?
setback. Yeah.
I think the best thing, do other board members, is anybody thinking that this rises to the level of a variance?
No. We're seeing a lot of these. I think we need to have a conversation about, it's a feature people want to put on their homes, and we had one we turned down or we withdrew without prejudice a couple of weeks ago, and it's a trend. I think we need to start addressing the trends that the residents are asking for without making it a hardship and a variance and all that stuff that we already know we're not going to go for.
Right. Okay.
I'm off my podium now. Okay.
Drew?
Yeah, no, I agree with Judy. I mean, I think it doesn't meet the threshold of a variance in this particular case. Do I think it's something that maybe needs to be looked at on a larger scale? Is certainly something to talk about, but.
So, Dave, what?
I agree, same.
Okay. Okay, so, I don't think variance is probably what's gonna happen here tonight. But what you can do is work with the building inspector and Patrick and get from them what you can build. You can still build the roof, but you just can't build it as big as you want. I think when I figured it out with Patrick, it's like 6 inches, less than what you want.
Yeah, I mean, if your home truly is 32 feet from the boundary, as we said, you can have the roof portion up to the boundary by right, and then what's called like projection. So I guess however is designed, if it were to be posted right there, and then part of the roof were to overhang by 18 inches, that's allowed. So that's where the chairman and I came. It's like 42 inches, essentially, hypothetically, could be done.
So
Be roofed.
So, at this point, you can either close the hearing and we'll vote, and I think you can see the way the vote's going, or you can, what we call it, you withdraw without prejudice, which means that you withdraw your application and we'll accept your withdrawal of the application and we won't vote against you. The problem is, if we vote against you, then you can't come back for anything for the next 2 years on related to this. So say you wanted to do, I don't know, something different, you couldn't come back. But it doesn't reach the level of a variance according to what everybody's saying here. So we can either vote it, and either way it's not good for you. But one, you have your options open for the future if you wanted to do something else.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
He's my husband, so we both
My
own.
name is Manoj. Thank you for taking the time. So if we withdraw this application, can we still work with Patrick and get exact
Yes.
measurement, how far we can go, and what is the process? Like if we like within the limitation, if we go.
I mean,
Either way, whether you withdraw it or we vote on it, you'll be able to work with the building commissioner.
Absolutely.
Mr. Crowley.
Yes.
And I know you've already talked to him, and Patrick, and just figure out what you can do, use the term as of right, what you can do without the variance.
Yeah, so within our rights, what is the permissible?
What's the
thing?
maximum you can do?
Thank you, appreciate it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So do you want to withdraw, or do you want us just to vote it and end it?
You can
Withdraw.
You can withdraw.
You want to withdraw? Okay. Anybody have anything else? Okay. So at the request of the applicant, they'd like to withdraw. Would somebody make a motion to allow them to withdraw without prejudice?
So moved.
Moved by Judy. Second by Drew. Any further discussion on withdrawing? Do we have to close the hearing?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, okay. So, do you want, first, it's just procedural. Do you want to close the hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So, the applicant requests to close the hearing. Somebody want to make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Judy, second by Drew again. All those in favor of closing the hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to allow the applicant to withdraw the application for 18 Arbor Court?
So moved.
Moved by Judy.
Second.
Second by Drew. Any further discussion on allowing them to withdraw without prejudice? All those in voting on this will be the regular members and Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
And work with Patrick and
Absolutely.
Mr. Crowley.
Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting all night, too. Okay. We have minutes to review, and did people review the minutes of July 17th? Drew and I were not here, so we can't vote on those.
The only thing I will say is that I'm not voting on it, but it does say that I make a motion.
Okay.
Page 2216. With all is absent.
Sorry, which one was that? The 17th and the 26th?
July 17th.
17th on the first page.
First page, down below.
We don't have to vote on it tonight if people want to have more time to review.
Okay, doesn't matter.
I just found a typo on
What, on,
page 6, it says, regarding the configuration of the suite, I think it means the site.
Ah.
But that's all I saw. Otherwise, I'm good to go with those.
I mean, I can make the changes and do them next time, and, or, you wanna do that? Or, okay.
Okay. I did review the ones for July 26th, and I did have one thing, and it's sort of a big deal. It says on the last page, page 5, the paragraph, the fifth paragraph, which starts with, Ms. Conroy said the proposed height of nearly 70 feet was too tall for the area. And then the last line says, it was determined that 70 feet did not negatively impact the community. It was, that's not correct. It was, so, it maybe was it was the opinion of Mr. Engler.
Oh, yeah.
But that was
That makes
definitely,
sense.
so that should be changed, you know, that should just be struck.
Stricken.
Take the whole thing out.
Strike the whole paragraph?
What's
Or
that?
just that sentence?
Just that one sentence. And the other one is, I don't know if verbally Mr. Engler confirmed that the ceiling heights would be 8 feet 10 inches, but their plans show that they're actually 9 feet. You can tell that height is still an issue for us, so I don't know whether, I'll just pass this over to you, and you can make those changes, but that's the only changes I had.
And then, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
okay, on page 1, Lauren.
Yep.
I didn't ask about peer review, I think I asked about department comments.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
So do you want me to just edit all of these and we'll vote them next time?
Nope,
Or do you
just-
want to vote them now?
We can vote it now with those
Okay.
edits if.
You've got others.
Does anybody have anything else? Or do you want to wait? Judy, do you want to wait?
No.
Does somebody want to make
I
a
read 'em.
motion to approve the minutes of July 26th?
So moved.
Moved by Mark,
Second.
second by Drew. Any further discussion on those minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. Good. Anybody have anything else for the board? Okay.
Nope.
Then, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Judy. Second by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. Good night, everybody.